And he should be slotted for, and at-bats is absolutely 450 at-bats. I think it's going to be really tough because there's some talent is spread out, Malpal. But they told this guy he's going to play a lot. They're going to if he's DHing, he's going to play. This really is one of the guys that I believe you can. I drafted him in our slow draft. I really do believe this guy is going to be a sneaky value. Okay? Sorry, I got some new effects, so I'm going to sprinkle them in as we go. I'm going to pause right here. You're listening to Chaps Fantasy Chat. This is my favorite podcast. This is my favorite episode of the year. We're talking about prospects and only prospects tonight, okay? I'm honored to be brought to you on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. I'm here with, I think this might be my largest chat room ever. I currently have 10 folks on here. I want to thank Dale Lawler Jr., Doug Boyle, George, Lenny, Malpal, Royals, Guest Marina. George, you're back on, so I see there's a guest Lavonda on here. George got the obscure trivia question of what was Kip's girlfriend's name in Napoleon Dynamite of LaFonda. So we do have royalty in the chat room, although it's idle. Anyway, back on topic. The international players are great, but really, what I really want to talk about, guys, where it really gets good, and I'm going to go as long as it takes tonight, okay? Let's talk about these guys that can help you this year. This year, they can help you. Let's first talk about Joe Adell. Joe Adell, 21 years old. Last year, he may have made the Major League roster had he not had a gruesome injury. It's weird because he tore his left hamstring and he twisted his right knee on the same play, which sounds awful, right? But when he had that injury, he was hit 391 in spring training. He had a slug of 478. He was killing the ball, right? And it was really unfortunate. He had a good chance to make the team. But as it stood, he came back from his injury. He spanned 3 levels last year. He was an A+, Double A, and Triple A. He hit 289 with 10 homers, 54 runs and 36 RBIs with just 7 stolen bases in 76 games. This guy's got elite speed. He just hasn't tapped into it yet. He is one of those rare 5-tool players. This guy has the potential to hit 300. He has the potential to hit 25 homers. He has the potential to steal 30 bases. Okay? I don't think that happens this year, to be clear. But what I do think is this guy's going to be given a legitimate opportunity to make the ball club out of spring training. And it would surprise me if he did it. What I love about Joe Adell, and this is a quote from him, to me, it's important for African-American kids to see more guys in the sport that look like them. He's a conscious player. He holds baseball camps in inner cities, geared towards making baseball and scholarships available to people who wouldn't have had an opportunity otherwise. It doesn't mean anything, but I like the message, right? I do believe this guy goes down to the minors. But I think he gets a call up right around the Super 2 time. And I think he's effective right out of the gate. That's the big thing about these guys. Some of these guys come up and they're able to handle it, a la Jordan Alvarez, a la Bo Bichette. Some guys come up and the league figures them out pretty quickly. I don't think that happens with Adele. I think Adele is pretty effective pretty early on. Okay? I think Adele plays in about 80 games this year. I think he hits about 270. He'll give you about 12 homers and 10 stolen bases, hitting predominantly at the top of that lineup. It's great protection having Mike Trout right behind you, having Tommy La Stella right in that same proximity. It could go higher. He certainly has a high ceiling. We'll say that. Speaking of high ceiling, Luis Robert, whatever. 22 years old, he's an outfielder for the White Sox. We all know that. He just signed a major league contract so he can play day one of the year. Look, I try and always be evolving when I talk about these prospects. Last year, I missed out on Pete Alonso because I was convinced he couldn't hit the freaking changeup. I'm not going to let that happen to me this year with Luis Robert. Robert. Last year, again, another one of those guys, 3 levels, A+, AA, and AAA. He hit, these are video game numbers, guys. These really are. He hit 328. He had 32 homers, 108 runs, 92 ribs, and 36 stolen bases. Again, he signed a major league contract. He can play from day one. He came over. I saw him play his rookie year, and he was unimpressive. I think it was in Winston-Salem. And we were down in North Carolina at the time. And I thought, this is just a dude. But he was injured. And last year he really came on. He showed why he was so coveted coming out from Cuba. He hit 16 homers and just 202 AAA at-bats. When I wrote this, you have to forgive me, guys. I got 23 pages of notes, and I'm not shitting you. I got 23 pages of notes here, okay? When I wrote this, I wrote him as a Super 2. There's no way. He makes the team out of spring training. So the numbers I have down here, I'm going to add those counting stats. Here's the thing about Robert, and we've talked about it, Kevin's talked about it, Lenny's talked about it, Andrew's talked about it, Arnie's talked about it. We've all spoken about it. Robert strikes out about 1 out of every 4 plate appearances. That's not good. But in this day and age, it's not a death sentence. This guy can still have a really good career striking out that much. The center field job is his. The stolen bases are a drop in the bucket. They're a guarantee. If he plays 120 games, which I think he will now, 30 bases, he can do backwards. I look for 30 swipes. Yeah, exactly, no problem. I look for 30 swipes out of Robert. I look for him to hit about 255. But I think he hits mid-20s homers, and he scores a boatload of runs. around 90 runs. There's not much competition to keep Robert from not playing. I'm going to go a little deeper here for this next guy, but I think he needs talked about with this tier of players. Let's talk about Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore is a lefty. He was a two-way player out of college. But he has 3+ pitches, and I believe he's just a pitcher now. He is. I have a quote here from the Padres beat writer. I can't quote him because I didn't write his name down. The Padres don't mind the rotation this season, but that doesn't mean they don't have an ace up their sleeve, and that's the truth. Mackenzie Gore is. First off, he's the number one left-handed pitching prospect on Major League Baseball Pipeline 100. He's just 20 years old. He's already pitched in Double-A. He had a 1.69 ERA and 135 Ks and 101 innings pitched between High A and Double-A. And they've been on record as saying, Preller's been on the record saying, Mackenzie Gore will have a shot to make the opening day roster. Think about what happened with Chris Paddock last year. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely. Who is that saying that? Sorry. Kevin? Yeah, Kevin, you're right. That is the talk. So, the great luxury that the Padres have is they have Mackenzie Gore pushing Luis Patino. And they have Luis Patino pushing Mackenzie Gore. And they're telling them there's only one spot open. Two really great prospects. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I wouldn't be surprised if this guy makes the opening day roster. I do think most likely he'll start in AAA. Prediction on Gore for this year in the major leagues. 10 games started, right? So my prediction says he doesn't make opening day. 6-2 with a 2.2 ERA. Right around 100 Ks and right around 21 walks. Right around 90 innings pitched. This is the type of player that can win you a league. If you think about it from that perspective, if Mackenzie Gore gets caught up in, let's say, August, and you are wise enough to be storing him in one of your bench spots, those numbers can win you a league. That's why these guys are important. Okay? Guys, the Prospect Edition is brought to you by Basil's Hayden. I'm pretty excited, so I'm going through it pretty quickly tonight. It's not going to affect my performance, so I promise you that much. Okay? For this next grouping, going to kind of go a little bit all over the place, but the first guy, these are the Super 2 type players. Okay? Malpal, I don't think he does start in Double-A. I know you're the resident Padre. I get it. But the Padres have shown that they're willing to give guys an opportunity that have earned it. I know his rookie year he had some blister issues. But I really do think when you have a guy with this sort of control and command to go with three pretty polished pitches,